Well, welcome. Um, welcome. This is part of the Calexit meetings. We haven't had one for a little while, but we're still here. We still have the website, we still have the YouTube channel, and we still have the vision in our hearts. So we're going to talk about a few things today. We've got the Calexit CEO of Calexit LLC here, and he'll start discussing some of the current events that are going on and how it reflects upon our understanding. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat, or you can ask to join us here in the studio. Maybe we'll let you. Anyways, let's go to the Calexit CEO, Jason Wright. What's going on in America today? Jason.
Well, same pile, different shovel, as I like to say. That's America today, yesterday, day before, last week, back in the 80s when I was born, back in, the 50s, 60s, back in the 20s, 30s, 40s. It's kind of always been same pile, different shovel. And for the average Americans, let me be clear about that, because there are people who are not average Americans who, for the sake of this discussion, we will call above. I'm using air quotes here, above average, right? The average American reaps very little benefit from the union and the federal machine. Only if there's a disaster, right? Usually. Although, look at the case of Hawaii. You tell me that the federal government, that the executive officer of the United States has handled that well, and that those people are getting what they need. So there's a rocky. But it goes even further than that. I mean, we'll stick to Hawaii for a second. We'll kind of jump all around the pegboard here to really light up the whole picture for you.
A jump around? A jump around?
Yeah. Yay.
Jump up, and then get down. Okay, please continue.
Yeah. So Hawaii was its own sovereign kingdom for a very long time. And actually, in relatively recent history, the United States of America annexed Hawaii and basically kind of helped itself. There was a purchase of a very large area that $1 and they get to use in perpetuity, this whole area for bombardment purposes and testing artillery and minefield, stuff like that. Now, these people were friendly with the United States at one point in time. And they were convinced by the United States that being friends with them would only be a good thing for them. They then had their trade cut off by the United States. The United States wouldn't allow anyone through to help them. No, they will starve to death or they will bend the knee. That was the United States' strategy. And eventually they bent the knee. Now, it doesn't sound to me like that was a really good deal for them. It doesn't sound to me like the United States actually upheld its end of the bargain of, hey, be our friend and we'll make it worth your while. It'll be in your best interest. That's just Hawaii. Then and now. Let's look at, say, people who live south of the border of the United States of America, be they Mexican, Guatemalan, Argentinian, uh, Brasilianos, Brasilianas, uh, Peruvian, Colombian, El Salvadorian, right? So no matter where they're from, if they're from south of the border, then they usually get vilified. Now, back at one point in time, Mexico was under control of Spain, as well as most of Central and Southern America, because, conquistadors be conquisting, yeah, that and spreading disease. Um, but these people were convinced that being friends with people was going to be in their best interest, in their benefit. And we all know it turned to genocide very quickly. History books show that. Entire, you know, basically groups, demographics of people were singled out and slaughtered and sold as like lesser than human beings, right? This is what the civilized, air quotes, world did to the unquote, air quotes, the uncivilized world. So the people who had these thriving mega cities that were like all connected into one super duper city, uh, they were uncivilized. And the people who came over and spread disease intentionally and like used their weapons that totally overpowered any of the other weapons that we're seeing at the time, like, used them freely to, maintain dominance. They're the civilized ones. Yeah. So when Mexico regained its independence from anyone and everyone, right? Uh, which then
Literally.
led to, yeah, right, Viva la Independencia. Um, it eventually led to freedom coming through to many others south of the American border. One of the things that happened was freedom to the west of the American border, because at that point in time, it did not stretch all the way to the west coast. It was not sea to shining sea. And, funnily enough, that song was actually only written as propaganda to help, spread the mental imagery and delusion that God God made America specifically for the United States, like made this piece of land specifically for the United States of America to exist on this. Um, I mean, I, I think we've heard similar things like the Crusades, right? Uh, we've heard similar things throughout history, and we all kind of accept nowadays that that was not a civilized way to be. That was not a proper way of thinking about things. But it stuck, it spread, and eventually the free land known as California, which had just freshly won its independence from Mexico, which had just freshly won its independence from Spain. Well,
Right.
America, the opportunist, comes in and does what? Oh, uses the military to annex yet another place. Now, this was actually before they did that to Hawaii, so keep that in mind. And notably, Hawaii had in the royal palace where their king and queen and royal family lived, um, they had electricity in there and running water and all of that, and a telephone before the White House in Washington, D.C. That White House, the White House. The White House did not have electricity, a telephone, all of that. They did, yet America was the civilized ones, and these barbaric Hawaiians just needed to be shown the first world and what it can be. It'll be in their best interest. So, looking at Mexico then, right, as it's gaining its freedom, and then, some of the people being put in charge of California here and there were not doing things so well. Some of them were doing some things that were really not good, genocide mostly. And so the people of California, both immigrant and native, got together, rallied forces, and kicked Mexico out and said, no, you can't send anyone up here, and if you want to fight a war over it, we will. And so Mexico said, fine, we're going to fight a war. And some people left and people died. And there was a bloody war that was fought between California and Mexico. And California won. And, that was kind of in our best interest that we stood up for ourselves then. And when America came in and annexed, right, America had already been in, and business of America had already come in and started looking at what resources it could get, what can it take from California, what does California have to give them. And they quickly pillaged California. I'm a huge fan of, yes, we should teach the gold rush in all of our history. Yes. But not because I like gold. I mostly wear silver, or silver type jewelry. But the plundering of the gold from California, which the United States doesn't even have anymore. That's yet another example of not in the best interest of being friends with them, doing business with them, being in a partnership with them. Back when California was its own country, Californios were every color under the sun, every creed under the sun, every race under the sun, different beliefs, different whatever. People lived together and accepted that we were all Californians. I don't have to believe what the native folks over in the village over there believe. They're not mandating that I believe that, and I'm not mandating that they're going to believe that, Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior. Hallelujah. Amen. So it's not a thing that's holding up our progress in society. And 10 years of those were California's golden years. 10 years of no genocide, very little crime happening, right? And most of that crime seemed to be dealt with because, hey, it was still the Wild West. But then America came in and said, no. You have to implement segregation. We cannot have non-white people getting that close to white people. Not while we're eating, not while we're drinking. They can't use the same drinking fountains as us. You have to like go above and beyond and build extra drinking fountains. One in the middle of the park will no longer do. You have to put one way off to the side, over by the trash cans for the vermin. And women are no longer to be like taken seriously or be a part of society. And, you know, this and that and the other thing. These people can't have a say. Those people can't have a say. Uh, this much of so much of the producible land needs to go to these big farm companies that, they're gonna come in and do the thing because we need them to produce lots of beef and pork and corn. Like, hey, yes, California is great for that. Very, very agriculturally well off. But what they did was they came in, they implemented their ways, which were pretty antithetical to our own, and changed California and then looted her. And most Californians today who seem to love America because they don't realize how good it was before America came in and plundered it and made us all their servants. People who were of Latino or Latin-esque heritage and ethnicity in California when she was independent were welcomed and accepted. A war had just been fought. People had died on both sides. But by and large, people who were in California were not going and rounding up all the brown people. Look at America today and tell me that that's not what's going on. Look at the border and tell me that that is not there. Biden. Tell me it's not a problem.
Surprise.
Yeah. So what about like New England for them? I mean, they started the whole thing. Surely it's in their best interest, right? Well, I mean, most of the East Coast profits much greater than the West Coast, even when the West Coast produces more profits or through the roof. The East Coast gets the lion's share of those profits from production. So, like when we produce 3.5 billion, the United States government says, okay, so we can look forward to 3.5 billion from California. Next year, let's make it 4. And, I get it. They constantly want more. I would like to always constantly have more. I mean, right now I don't have a car, so like maybe tomorrow I can tell them to give me a Toyota, and then the day after I can be like, okay, well now I want a Porsche or a BMW, and then eventually I'll be getting that Ferrari or that Lamborghini Gallardo from the song, in my Lamborghini Gallardo. Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it? I'm pretty sure the vast majority of Americans would also like that. But hey, guess what? That's not really fair. That's just usury. So why does the federal government get to do it? And it's not just to California. Like, we are not the only ones who suffer this greatly. Again, look at Hawaii. Look what they just went through. Oh, look at um what is it, Louisiana, right? Where Hurricane Katrina hit the hardest. Look at that and tell me that everything has been 100% fixed up from that disaster. Was that like 20 years ago now? Tell me that everything's been fixed up. All the communities are rebuilt. Everyone is back living at home and perfectly happy and fine and got everything that they needed from the government. No? No one's out there to say that? No one wants to stick behind that lie? No one wants to commit to it? Well, then, people are getting smart. Yeah, it would be a heaping crock of horse doo doo to say that, because to this day, New Orleans is still being rebuilt. People are still fighting over the contracts, the lucrative contracts. I mean, sure, Bourbon Street's still there, because how else are they going to have any money in that town if there is zero tourism and everything else still hasn't been redone? So I get it. They had to prioritize that because they were smart enough to realize the federal government was not going to give them everything they needed. By the way, how many days has it been since Flint, Michigan has not had clean water? How many oil spills have there been out there by Wounded Knee? Out on the Standing Rock Reservation, home of the Lakota Sioux? Atrocity after atrocity, letdown after letdown. That's what America does. And that's kind of what it does best, really. That's like the one thing it can be counted on for. So then let's look at some of the other stuff. So we all know I'm not a fan of Trump or Biden. Trumpelstiltskin and Uncle Hansy are both like, I'm sorry, but if I was president of the United States of freaking America, I would not be putting my hands on other people and their children unless it was abso-freaking-lutely necessary and or okay to do so. Why? Because you're the president of the United States. You don't represent you. You represent like 400 million people. Keep that in mind. Like, I'm not a super jealous type, but like, if I was a senator and the president came up and like, gives my wife a kiss on the cheek or something, or he's like staring at her breasts or something, I am not going to be happy, whether the dude is president or not. And the fact that he's president, I'm probably going to be even more unhappy, honestly, because you should know better. So I'm not a fan of either of them. I will say this. The justice system in America is so unbelievably broken that we now have a county district attorney in one state trying to take on federal prosecution, trying to take on something that is so far outside of her and above her jurisdiction. Yes, she is a district attorney for that county. Great. That means that any crimes that happen in that county are her purview. But hey, guess what? Election crime goes to the Federal Elections Commission. So she is basically grossly overstepping her boundaries for her authority because she campaigned on I'm gonna get Trump. Elect me and I will get Trump. And that's why she got elected, because people are like, yeah, go get him. People, you are contributing to the problem, the brokenness of the justice system. A district attorney is not supposed to be going after one person and one person only. A district attorney should be able to look a judge who is doing wrong in the eye and tell them that they are doing wrong, as well as look an average citizen in the eye and tell them when they're doing wrong, all the way across the board, including into the mirror to themselves. And this lady can't. She has definitely committed some campaign no-nos, should we call it? Um, Pretty sure those are laws that, and like when you start up, Marcus, you'll probably remember from the campaigns that we have run. Um, when you start up one of these campaigns, there's all sorts of stuff you have to read through and sign and agree to do these things, not do these things, not do these certain other things, not do things like build a campaign based on vilifying any one person or entity, also not building a campaign based on attacking, slandering, going after, or any sort of pursuit against any sort of singular person or entity, right? The Republican Party can say, we're going to stick it to the Democrats. They cannot say, we are going after Joe Biden. Not because Joe Biden's president, but because you can't legally build your campaign on that. She built a campaign, like literally, and I remember because I saw it. And I immediately was mortified because I was like, oh, dude, this woman's going to face some federal prison time if she gets elected. Because if you use that tactic and you win, you have won by maliciously falsely influencing the election. It's why when you get into politics, you have to really read all the fine print and make sure you really absolutely dot all the I's and cross all the T's. Use the correct grammar, correct punctuation every single time. Proper diction also does not hinder one's furtherance in politics. If you catch what I just did there. This is because the more room for misinterpretation, the worse things are for you. Don't leave things open to misinterpretation, all right? But also, don't go and bold-faced lie. So we've got this whole claim of no stone was left unturned, and that's why it took so long. Well, if no stone was left unturned, and they really are the most competent people, and they really are the best people to go and get Trump in air quotes, right? And that's from D.A. Willis's, campaign there. If they really are, why is it that a Supreme Court in Washington, Supreme Court justice, just ruled in favor of a January 6th defendant that he was wrongfully convicted? Which is likely going to give precedent, legal precedent. And folks, if you didn't know, this is how the law works in the United States of America. Is there legal precedent? Yeah? Okay, well then, we can probably do it too. Dude, murders someone and he's trying to get his, lawyer to help get him off on it, right? And they've been convicted and he's like, well, but there is still the appeals process, and we can appeal it and claim that this was wrongful conviction because there's been a case nearly identical, or at least so similar, comparatively similar, that we can say, look, this person was found to not be guilty of having committed a crime, never had to set foot in jail or serve a sentence of any kind. My client should also be given that same exact treatment. That is the fairness of our law and our legal system. And that's when an actual fair-minded judge would have to say, yeah, you know what? That is quite the compelling argument. I'll grant it. Now, speaking of compelling arguments, this DA who ran on "I am going to get Trump" announced re-election and started asking for campaign donations right before this indictment and all that was handed down or whatever. And not only that, but and I hate to find myself agreeing with Trump or with Trump lawyers. Let me be clear about that. I hate to find myself agreeing with them. But I think they are right. There is case to be made for rights have been violated. Malicious intent clearly, easily could be used, but also the fact that the grand jury was deciding whether or not to even present charges, and it was posted up on the district attorney's site that they control that charges were being pressed before the grand jury decided, right? So that shows pressure to the grand jury, persuasion to, right? And again, that is a huge felony. Like, oh my God. And it's a grand jury. So it's a federal. Oh, how can someone make it into office if they're this dumb about the law? Like, I get it, she might be smart, but like, how is she a district attorney if she is that dumb when it comes to the law? Really? OMG, people. This is the state of the government and the United States. This is a great little shining prime example that mirrors the whole thing. Breaking law to try to get Trump is only going to get him off the hook. It is not going to get him. It is going to get him off the hook. Don't break the law. And like, if you had every stone turned over and investigated and every last scrap of evidence, you wouldn't need to break the law now, would you? So breaking the law only helps ensure that he gets off scot-free and can't be charged or tried for it again. And then you end up going down and looking like a laughingstock. And then everyone who stood behind and said, yeah, we're going to lock him up. This is it for Trump and all of his kind. Well, you know what? They're all going to be wrong. They're going to be left with their heads hanging, mouths open, and every one of Trump and his fans and his people, everyone in the Trump circle is going to laugh and laugh and laugh. And I mean, honestly, I can't blame them. If I was being vilified and people, whether I broke the law or not, and people were coming after me and they broke the law to try to catch me, yeah, I'd probably be laughing and laughing as I get let off the hook. Like, you are so dumb. But honestly, anyone who thinks that this is actually, and now, okay, we'll we'll play this out in the way that the Dems want it played out. He is charged and, you know, he is tried and he is convicted. Well, ultimately, the ultimate legal authority of the land is Republican dominated. And that's all he'd really have to petition. And how many of those people were put in there under his watch? Oh, yeah, yeah, okay. So even if, right, it could be overturned, expunged, and then he's back at it again and can't be retried, can't be recharged, gotta freaking drop it. So that's the best case scenario. Now let's go over the worst case scenario. This whole clown show gets picked apart and unraveled and comes apart at the seams, falls down like a not well stacked house of cards. And Trump's team is laughing in the faces of everyone who stood against them. People like myself are like watching on and kind of, you know, some of us might be a little bemused. Some of us might have a little sick, twisted interest, like, you know, rubbernecking in a horrific car accident or something. Um, Watching two ships coming at each other head on, knowing there's nothing that can be done. Something like that. Um, One side is going to be super angry, one side is going to be elated, and everyone else in the middle is going to have a mixed range of emotion and feeling and be stuck in the crossfire. Because if you're not with us, you're against us. And it doesn't matter if the Dems aren't saying that right now. They've said it before, they'll say it again. It doesn't matter if the Reds aren't saying it now. They've said it before, they'll say it again. It's a it's like a playground mentality thing that happens with people when they are not fully emotionally mature. They get this us versus them, and then they make it an us versus them by being exclusionary and being hostile and being, you know, being that way. So to me, it just looks more and more like Civil War 2.0 is imminent, that the national division is furthering and furthering. Um, if you look online at what the red side is saying about all of this, and by the way, you know, I know that some of the blue media likes to claim that, like, you know, and I know red media too, but some of the blue media, and I want folks to hear this because we're about truth and like learning and growing so that we can actually make some good decisions here, right? Blue media would have us all believe that Ron DeSantis could beat Trump. It would take like 4 Ron DeSantis's polls wise, numbers wise, to beat Trump. Trump has over 50% of the Republican voter support. It would take all of the other candidates put together and then some to beat Trump for the Republican nomination. There is not a chance in hell anyone is getting the Republican nomination other than Donald J. Trump. I'm sorry to break it to you, but like the sooner we acknowledge this fact and truth, the sooner we can figure out how to deal with it. And yeah, it's kind of a scary fact and truth because once his campaign is official and started, guess what he gets again? Secret Service protection. Are they gonna lock him up with Secret Service agents all around? And, they're gonna lock Secret Service agents armed to the teeth into the cell with him? They're gonna allow them into the jail or prison, wherever, whatever he ends up being held at. Really, the real question is the Secret Service and the federal government, which is much higher and more powerful than Fulton County, are they going to allow that? My instinct says no.
Hey, Jason, about 7 more minutes and then we're going to call it, okay?
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to spell this all out real clear for everyone that it is likely that Donald Trump is going to be president of the United States again, whether it's this next year, this next election, or the one after. Because if it's not this one, he'll have all of his stuff overturned and expunged by then for the next one after that. And then he's going to be coming back with a vengeance. And I just got to say, California, one of the few entities that could actually go it alone. One of the few entities with the population enough to actually make a difference. One of the few entities that's like economically powerful enough to garner world support should we decide to go it alone. I think that California would be much better off for Californians if it returned to its own independent status, if it ran itself. If the Democratic National Party of the United States of America no longer had any influence or say whatsoever, as well as the Republican National Party of the United States of America. None of the parties of the United States of America. If we had that, we would be able to make the decisions that we need to make to fix the things that are broken. We have insane homeless population number. The president of Finland at one point visited California and was walking around in the forest of California trying to talk with, then President Trump about this is like how we handle our forests. And also here's how we handle our homelessness because we don't have any homelessness anymore because we've solved it. He was really trying to help California because people around the world, by and large, love California and Californians. Like, hey, you from America? Oh yeah, man, but I'm from California. It's all good. Oh, California, hey, shaka bra. San Francisco, Los Angeles, the Lakers. Tell them you're from DC and see what happens. I mean, you don't even have to be a politician. Who's from Washington, D.C. For you, 2,000 ruble. Find out you're from California, they might give it to you for free just because, they're like, hey, you're a cool guy or gal. Find out you're from DC, you're from America, they automatically assume that you must hate everyone for, pretty biased reasons and kind of unfounded biased reasons of that. And so they'll probably take it out on you. whether it's true or not. They just kind of assume it worldwide because it's so prevalent. And that's what the United States of America portrays. And when Californians go out and about, you know, they find out quickly. You tell people you're from America, and they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah." Tell people you're from California. Oh, California. So, you know, really, we've got enough love out there, enough support waiting, and, enough people even trying to throw us a bone that we should do it. There's really no reason not to. We already have our own military, our own Navy, our own Army, our own Air Force, right? Our own Marines. Um, it's not the largest in the world. It doesn't need to be because we've been tied to America. The important thing is that we've already got the structure for it and could easily increase it. And instead, what we end up doing is just giving everything to America, letting her say, give us more. This is fine for now, but we still need more. I mean, wasn't that the ants movie with the grasshoppers bullying the ants to harvest all year long? I mean, come on. When is enough enough? Was it back in the 80s? Was it in the 90s? Was it when the housing bubble collapsed? Oh, wait, which time? The first, second, third, fourth, fifth time? Was it when the stock market crashed? Oh, wait, which time? Was it when America did this? Was it when America did that? I mean, come on. How many examples do we need? Do we need more Hawaii's? Do we need really just was that Idaho the trains bill that like Biden couldn't be bothered about, just like Hawaii? Come on. When is enough enough? I say free the Pacific people. Jefferson said the Pacific people are their own people and should be left to being their own people, that the United States could not ever truly adequately govern or represent them, and therefore should not even attempt to do so. But hey, what do I know? I'm not one of the founding fathers. I'm just someone who's studied a lot about it. And really, I firmly believe that John Adams was the best. That man knew law well enough to know that even the best made laws will be abused. And that therefore, in an imperfect system, the justice system has to have an even higher ultimate, upper up to look at things and double check that there is no injustice being overlooked. That's how much the man cared about fairness, equality, justice.
Hey,
He was also one of the ones who pushed for, let's not leave the whole slavery issue unaddressed.
hey,
But
Jason, I got to go in
yeah,
2 minutes, okay? 2 minutes, and then I
mm,
have to go.
yeah, yeah. I'm just saying, America is very far from where the founding fathers envisioned what they wanted. It's very far from what people who think that they know what it is, right? It's far from that in reality. And what it really is failing and crumbling and failing the people left and right, no matter where you look, no matter what time frame you look at. It is broken. It is time we split. Viva todos Californios. Viva Movimiento por los Independencia por los Baja California y California del Sur. And free Hawaii.
Okay, we'll leave it there. That was a good analysis, very detailed, and I think you're able to restate why we're here and why this is important. We'll leave it there, and thank you everybody for joining us today. And we'll see you next time with another incredible episode, and we'll go from there. I'm going to end the broadcast, so thank you everybody for coming out.